When Justin Bieber spoke during a recent Twitch stream about that deeply personal moment in the hospital when his wife Hailey was giving birth and emotions were running high, he admitted that he found himself butting heads with someone close to him, a crucial figure in that delicate moment. And that confession took everyone by surprise, because it wasn't about drama, it was about humanity, about how even the calmest souls can find themselves overwhelmed in life's most powerful moments. And as Justin shared how Hailey gently yet firmly asked him to apologize later, we saw a glimpse of the man he has become. Not the pop star, not the icon, but the husband, the father, the human learning in real time what humility and love truly mean. And it was touching to see that honesty unfold live, because so many of his fans have grown up with him, have watched him transform from a teenage sensation into a reflective and grounded man who no longer runs from his emotions, but faces them with faith and courage. And this story of tension, compassion, and reconciliation became a mirror of real life, showing that relationships, even the strongest ones, thrive, not on perfection, but on forgiveness. And that theme ripples through this entire journey, because if you look closely at Justin's life and career, it has always been a dance between pressure and peace, between expectation and self-discovery. From the moment Scooter Braun discovered him singing on YouTube to the whirlwind tours that made him a global superstar. Justin's story has been one of constant transformation, and the reason fans connect so deeply is because they have seen his vulnerability evolve in front of the whole world, and now as a husband and a father, he carries himself with a new kind of grace, one that values honesty over image, and that honesty creates ripples across the industry, inspiring others to drop the mask and embrace authenticity. And when he talks about love and faith, you can tell it's not rehearsed, it's lived, and that makes his connection to Hailey even more special, because their love story isn't a fairy tale. It's real, it's full of challenges, lessons, and redemption, and that's what makes it powerful. Hailey herself has built a remarkable career beyond being known as Mrs. Bieber. She has become a successful model entrepreneur and voice of calm confidence in an industry that thrives on chaos, with her Rhode skincare line. She's redefined beauty as something simple, clean, and honest. And that authenticity resonates because it's rooted in self-respect rather than performance. And when you see her next to Justin, you can feel that balance between their energies, his creative fire and her grounding spirit, creating harmony that feels rare in the celebrity world. And their dynamic reminds many of power couples across generations who built legacies not just through fame, but through support and shared growth, like Beyoncé and Jay-Z, who turned their relationship into a testament of art and partnership, or like David and Victoria Beckham, who grew from media scrutiny into timeless icons of love, fashion, and philanthropy. And speaking of fashion, Justin and Hailey's style journey is a whole story in itself, because what started as youthful streetwear experimentation has evolved into something refined and meaningful. They no longer chase trends. They set them, turning comfort into luxury and authenticity into aesthetic. And that resonates with fans who see fashion not as appearance, but as expression. And from there, the narrative widens into the bigger landscape of celebrity transformation, because Justin's moment of vulnerability during Hailey's birth mirrors a larger truth among artists worldwide, that success does not erase struggle, it amplifies it, yet it also gives you the chance to turn that struggle into purpose. And that's exactly what we've seen in stars like Selena Gomez, who after years of personal challenges, continues to use her platform for mental health advocacy, building rare beauty, and creating safe spaces for young people to talk about emotions without shame, or like Taylor Swift, who transformed every heartbreak and misunderstanding into lyrical masterpieces, teaching a generation that you can own your story and rewrite your reputation with grace. Or like Billie Eilish, who refused to let the world dictate her identity and built a movement around self-acceptance, redefining what pop stardom can look like. And then there's BTS, who have turned global attention into activism, reminding fans everywhere that love yourself is not just a slogan, it's a philosophy. And all these artists connect through the same invisible thread of honesty and purpose, the same light that Justin carries when he talks about faith and forgiveness. And as we listen to him recount that hospital moment on Twitch where tension gave way to tenderness, we realize that even at the peak of fame, life humbles us in beautiful ways. It brings us back to the basics, to gratitude, to connection, to what really matters. And Justin's journey is proof that redemption is not a single act. It's a lifestyle, a daily choice to grow, to apologize, to evolve. And that's why people still care about his story, after all these years. Because it's not about the music anymore, it's about meaning, and that meaning extends into his charity work, his advocacy for mental health, his quiet support for organizations that help children and families in need, and the way he often uses his tours not just for entertainment, but for inspiration. And Hailey, too, continues to give back, supporting women entrepreneurs and promoting positive beauty standards, showing that fame can coexist with grace and service. And together they've become symbols of faith in modern culture, reminding everyone that real success is inner peace, not outer perfection. And as we dive deeper into this documentary, we'll journey through the lives of other artists who embody that same energy of renewal and reinvention, from Zendaya, who grew from Disney fame into an Emmy-winning fashion icon, while staying humble, to Rihanna, who turned heartbreak into business empire, blending music motherhood, and philanthropy effortlessly, to Lady Gaga, who stands tall as a beacon of mental health awareness and creative freedom, each of them teaching the world in their own way that love, empathy, and persistence are the true currencies of life. And that message is what ties back to Justin's story, because even as he faced public scrutiny for his youth mistakes, controversies, and personal struggles, he kept choosing growth, kept choosing love. And now his story is one of light, a testament that no matter how loud the noise gets, you can always find calm if you listen to your heart. And that is why his openness about that emotional birth room moment matters, because it wasn't just about conflict. It was about learning that love sometimes means letting go of pride, saying sorry, and holding on to peace even in chaos. And that lesson speaks to everyone, because whether you're famous or not, we all have those moments when our emotions collide with our intentions, and how we handle them defines who we become. And Justin's evolution from pop prodigy to reflective man shows us that growth is not glamorous, it's raw, it's real. It's hard, but it's worth it. And as we continue this story, we'll see that every celebrity journey, from struggle to strength, holds the same beating heart of humanity, reminding us that fame fades, but kindness endures, and that in the end, love is the only legacy that lasts. As the story unfolds, Justin reflects on that moment when he was asked by Hailey to apologize, and how it became a defining symbol of humility for him, because for years he had carried the image of being in control, the star, the perfectionist. But now, in the soft light of fatherhood, he learned that control was an illusion, and that real strength comes from surrender, from saying, "I'm sorry," from realizing that love requires grace. And in that moment, he understood more about life than he had in years. Because birth is not just about new life. It's about rebirth for everyone involved. It's the moment where you see what truly matters. And when he saw Hailey's strength, her calm, her beauty, her patience, he knew that she was not only his wife, but his teacher. And he said that sometimes the hardest thing for men to do is to admit when they are wrong. But when you do, it's like taking off a weight that's been on your chest for years. And that line resonated with millions watching the stream, because everyone has been there in one way or another. Everyone has faced a moment where pride collides with love, and choosing peace becomes the turning point. And that's what makes Justin's confession so relatable. It wasn't a celebrity gossip story. It was a human story, a reflection of growth, maturity, and faith. And from that moment, the documentary shifts to explore how faith has shaped his journey. How through all the storms, fame, scandals, and confusion, he always found his way back through spirituality, music, and community. And as we see glimpses of him praying, performing, and playing with his family, we realize that this isn't the same boy who sang Baby. This is a man who sings to heal, not to impress, who uses his voice as a vessel for truth. And when he sings songs like Ghost or Lonely, they don't sound like hits. They sound like journal entries, honest, raw, real. And that's why his fans stay connected, because they feel his authenticity. They know that he's not performing perfection, he's expressing pain and transformation, and that kind of art is timeless. It's the kind of art that outlives trends and generations. And speaking of timelessness, the documentary takes us through how celebrities all over the world have turned their struggles into strength, just like Justin did, because this pattern of pain becoming purpose runs through so many artists, from Adele, who channeled heartbreak into anthems of hope, to Ed Sheeran, who turned his humble beginnings into a global movement of sincerity, to Beyoncé, who turned betrayal into empowerment and redefined how the world sees women in power. And each of these stories weaves into the bigger picture of what it means to rise after falling, to grow after breaking, and to love after losing. And Justin's story fits right into that universal pattern, showing that no matter how big the spotlight gets, the soul remains human and fragile. And that's what makes it beautiful. And as we follow Justin and Hailey's journey as new parents. You can feel the shift in energy. They are no longer chasing fame, they are chasing peace. They choose quiet mornings over flashing lights. They choose gratitude over gossip. And they choose forgiveness over pride. And that choice is rare in a world that thrives on chaos. But it's also what makes their story shine, because they remind us that love is work, but it's the most rewarding work there is. And the documentary then transitions smoothly into exploring how Hailey's influence has shaped Justin's rebirth. Her calm elegance, her steady faith, her ability to handle fame with grace and empathy have softened him, brought out his gentler side, and that balance of energies between them creates something magical. And when fans see them together, whether it's on red carpets or quiet walks, they see partnership, not perfection. They see two people learning and growing together. And that resonates because it's real, and their authenticity is mirrored by other couples who've turned their relationships into foundations of empowerment, like Chrissy Teigen and John Legend, who advocate for mental health awareness and kindness, like Priyanka Chopra and Nick Jonas, who use their platforms for global philanthropy and cultural connection, like Barack and Michelle Obama, who remain the gold standard of grace, unity, and balance, and all of them in their own way reflect the same energy that Justin and Hailey now embody: love anchored in purpose and built on respect. And as the film glides from their family life into Justin's creative process, we see how fatherhood has changed his approach to art. He no longer chases perfection in production or pressure in performance. He seeks meaning. He wants to make music that lasts, that speaks to souls, not charts. And in that, you can see the influence of artists who have reached the same spiritual stage of their careers, like Alicia Keys, who stripped away the glamour to sing raw truth, or John Mayer, who turned introspection into melody, or even artists like Coldplay and U2, who use music as a tool for unity, not ego. And Justin stands among them, not as a boy chasing fame, but as a man chasing purpose. And that purpose is what makes his evolution so powerful, because his journey shows that redemption is not a moment. It's a lifetime commitment. And it's not just his redemption, it's ours too. Because through his openness, we learn that mistakes don't define you. How you rise after them does. And his honesty about mental health, anxiety, self-doubt, and love has opened doors for conversations that matter worldwide, inspiring fans to take care of themselves, to believe in healing, and to treat others with kindness. And that kindness becomes the theme that ties everything together, because kindness is the thread that holds the world together, even when everything else falls apart. And as the story expands, we explore how that same kindness has shaped the careers of other stars who have faced adversity and turned it into advocacy, like Lady Gaga with her Born This Way Foundation, spreading compassion for youth, like Rihanna, using her brand to empower women of all shades, like BTS leading campaigns that blend fame with humanitarian impact, like Taylor Swift standing up for artists' rights and showing that power can be graceful. And each of these artists, just like Justin, share the same heartbeat of humanity. They understand that fame is temporary, but influence is eternal. And true influence comes from authenticity and love. And as we return to the image of Justin holding Hailey's hand in that hospital room, we see that it wasn't just the birth of a child, it was the rebirth of a man, a moment, when pride dissolved and vulnerability took its place. And that vulnerability became his greatest strength, the reason he can stand today at peace with who he is. And with that, the story flows into the next phase of Justin's life, where every note he sings and every word he speaks carries that wisdom, that love, that understanding. And that's what makes this chapter the most beautiful one yet. And as time moved forward, Justin found that every day of fatherhood brought a new lesson about patience and purpose. And he began to see that love is not just a feeling, but a practice, something you choose over and over, even when you are tired. Even when the world is loud, and in those quiet late nights when the baby finally slept and the house was still, he would sit with his guitar and play softly, not for a crowd, not for charts, but for the sheer beauty of creating something pure. And those moments reminded him of why he started making music in the first place: to express, to connect, to heal. And that purity began to seep back into his art in new ways. His lyrics warmer, his voice steadier, his eyes filled with gratitude, and fans could feel that shift. It was no longer about proving anything. It was about sharing life as it is, raw, imperfect, and full of grace. And that is what draws people to him still. Because in an industry obsessed with spectacle, He has chosen sincerity. And that choice has become his quiet revolution. And when he talks about the people who inspire him now, he doesn't mention competition. He mentions community. He mentions artists who lift others like Chance the Rapper with his joyful, faith-filled approach, or like Ed Sheeran, who never stopped being humble despite global fame, or like Ariana Grande, who turned pain into resilience and used her music to help others heal. And these friendships, these creative partnerships remind us that collaboration is stronger than comparison, and that success shared becomes even more meaningful. And while Justin continues to evolve as an artist, his fashion sense evolves alongside him, a mix of comfort and creativity, where streetwear meets soul, where every oversized hoodie and soft tone reflects his current phase of calm simplicity, and that aesthetic resonates because it mirrors his message. Less noise, more heart, and Hailey complements that effortlessly with her minimal chic style redefining glamour as something graceful and attainable. She shows that confidence doesn't come from being seen, it comes from being centered, and together, they've quietly influenced an entire generation to value authenticity over image, to dress for themselves, not for approval. And that philosophy extends beyond style into lifestyle. Their home, their habits, their hobbies, all reflect the same truth that peace is the new luxury. And while the world keeps chasing speed, they choose stillness. And that stillness allows creativity to bloom not just for them, but for those who watch and learn. And as Justin continues his journey, his faith remains the compass guiding him through fame's storms. He often shares how gratitude, prayer, and community saved him, reminding fans that spirituality doesn't have to be loud to be powerful. It can be as simple as kindness, as humble as forgiveness. And this message has rippled across continents, inspiring fans in every language to find their own peace, their own grounding. And in that sense, Justin has become more than a musician. He's become a messenger of mindfulness, someone who reminds us to breathe, to forgive, to start again. And his influence shines in unexpected places, from youth programs he quietly funds to mental health initiatives he supports, to the way he treats his team with care and respect, showing that leadership is service and fame without compassion is empty. And this truth resonates across the celebrity world, where more and more artists are choosing purpose over pressure, from Zendaya using her platform to highlight diversity and creativity, to Harry Styles redefining masculinity with softness, to Billie Eilish speaking openly about anxiety and growth. And each of these stories intertwines with Justin's, because they are all part of the same movement. The movement of realness in a digital age where connection often feels fleeting. These artists remind us that the human spirit still craves authenticity, and that is why their stories endure. They remind us that we are all works in progress, all trying to find peace in our own way. And as Justin speaks about his evolution, you can feel that his relationship with fame has matured. He no longer runs from it, but he no longer lets it run him. He has learned to exist peacefully with it, to use it as a platform for light, rather than letting it become a shadow. And that balance is what defines his current chapter. A chapter filled with family, with music, with mindfulness, and with quiet service. And the documentary captures these moments not as dramatic scenes, but as gentle vignettes. Glimpses of humanity that remind us that joy is not found in perfection, but in presence. And through it all, his connection with Hailey remains the anchor that holds him steady. She reminds him to rest, to breathe, to trust. And in return, he reminds her to dream, to create, to believe. And together they show that love can be both grounding and freeing. That true partnership is about growth and grace, not about never arguing, but about always reconciling. And that theme echoes through every relationship we admire. Whether it's John Legend and Chrissy Teigen laughing their way through challenges, or Dwayne Johnson cherishing family above fame, or even Angelina Jolie and her endless humanitarian work, showing that compassion can coexist with strength. All of these figures embody the same truth, that greatness means nothing without goodness, and Justin's openness about that has made him not just relatable, but inspiring to millions of fans who see in him a reflection of their own growing pains, their own path toward forgiveness. And that is why, even as new artists emerge and new sounds dominate the charts, Justin's voice still carries weight, because it carries heart, it carries memory and wisdom. And when he speaks now, there's a calmness that wasn't there before, the calmness that comes from surviving yourself, from forgiving your past and embracing your present. And that is a kind of peace no fame can buy. And as this part of the story closes, we see Justin standing on a quiet stage, lights dimmed, guitar in hand, singing softly about love. about faith, about the beauty of starting over. And in that moment, the noise fades, the crowd becomes one heartbeat, and you can feel that this isn't just a concert. It's communion, it's healing, it's home. And as the next chapter of his journey unfolds, Justin begins to realize that the influence he holds extends far beyond music charts or sold-out arenas. It touches hearts across continents and cultures, inspiring a generation to see fame not as a goal, but as a platform for goodness. And he starts to collaborate more deeply with global causes, lending his voice to campaigns for children's education, clean water, and mental health awareness, reminding everyone that compassion is the most powerful currency. And what makes this part of his story so beautiful is how organically it connects to others, like him artists and public figures who have chosen to use their fame for light rather than for vanity. And one cannot help but think of how Selena Gomez channels her struggles into advocacy for mental wellness through her Rare Beauty line, which donates funds to therapy programs and encourages self-acceptance, or how Taylor Swift continues to empower artists by speaking about ownership and creative freedom, turning her personal battles into lessons for others. And then there is Billie Eilish, whose bold individuality and vulnerability inspire young people to embrace themselves without apology. And when you weave these stories together, you see a pattern forming a tapestry of empathy woven by modern celebrities who are not just entertainers, but catalysts for change. And Justin finds himself humbled by this wave of authenticity, recognizing that he too once felt trapped by the weight of expectations, and now he's part of a new movement, one rooted in sincerity, faith, and service. And it's in that mindset that his fashion choices take on new meaning. Every outfit, every collaboration now reflects not just style but story. His oversized sweaters and soft neutrals tell a tale of comfort, self-expression, and peace, in contrast to the loud glam of his early years, showing that fashion can evolve alongside your spirit. And the same can be said for Hailey, who has built a brand not only around beauty, but around wellness, transparency, and simplicity, teaching millions that confidence begins with care. And together they radiate this grounded, calm energy that feels refreshing in a world often dominated by noise and competition, and you can sense how much their fans appreciate that. How deeply people crave role models who remind them that it's okay to slow down, to prioritize kindness and balance. And this shift in perspective connects Justin with global peers like BTS, who use their voices to promote self-love and unity through their music, or like Rihanna, who has redefined success by merging business artistry and philanthropy, proving that empire building and empathy can coexist harmoniously. And when Justin meets such figures at events or through collaborations, there's mutual respect, because they understand the cost and privilege of visibility. They understand that influence without integrity is empty, and that realization shapes their legacy in powerful ways, and in Justin's case, it fuels his charity work, which often happens quietly behind the scenes. He donates to youth organizations, mental health initiatives, and communities in need without seeking headlines, because he believes that good deeds are strongest when done with humility, and that belief is echoed by others like The Weeknd, whose humanitarian efforts in Africa often go unnoticed, or Zendaya, whose work with underserved children continues to grow, or even Keanu Reeves, who remains the eternal example of quiet generosity. And these stories create a ripple effect, reminding us all that kindness never goes out of style. And speaking of style, Justin's collaborations with ethical fashion brands emphasize sustainability and fair trade, blending creativity with conscience, and proving that fashion can uplift rather than exploit. And this mindset resonates with fans who are increasingly aware of the impact of their choices and want to support artists who align with their values. And through all of this, Justin's artistry continues to deepen his new songs, carrying a tenderness that mirrors his life experience. His melodies softer, his lyrics wiser, exploring themes of forgiveness, fatherhood, and faith. And listeners find solace in that honesty because it reminds them that even their idols are human, even their heroes stumble and rise again, and that shared humanity is what keeps fans connected through the years and across borders, from Canada to Korea, from Brazil to France, from Pakistan to the Philippines. The love for authentic art and emotion unites people in a way few things can, and Justin knows this. He feels it every time he steps on stage and hears the crowd singing his words back to him, not just as fans, but as fellow travelers on the road to healing. And it's in those moments that you see what fame can become when it's rooted in empathy. It becomes a mirror reflecting not vanity, but vulnerability. And that is where true inspiration lives, and even when controversies arise, as they inevitably do, Justin now handles them with a calm maturity, understanding that criticism is not always cruelty and that growth often happens in the quiet after the storm. And this wisdom comes not from perfection, but from persistence, from learning again and again how to rise gracefully. And that's the same lesson shared by so many global icons who've reinvented themselves, like Lady Gaga, turning pain into art and advocacy, or Robert Downey Jr., transforming from chaos to compassion through recovery and storytelling, or even Shakira using her platform to uplift education for children worldwide. And in these intertwined stories, we see the beauty of resilience, the proof that redemption is possible and that it can lead to even greater purpose. And as Justin continues this journey, he becomes a symbol of evolution, not just in music, but in mindset, showing that the real success is not in how high you climb, but in how deeply you grow, and through that growth, he continues to inspire fans to dream bigger, love deeper, and give more freely. Because at the end of the day, fame fades, trends change, but the legacy of kindness remains, and that is what will echo long after the lights go out. And as Justin stood looking back on everything that had brought him to this point, he realized that the journey had never been about being perfect or staying on top. It had always been about learning how to love better, to forgive, faster to let go of what hurt, and to hold on to what healed, because the night Hailey gave birth to their son, and emotions ran high and words were said that came from exhaustion, not anger, he understood that even in the middle of life's most beautiful miracles, there can be moments of tension, moments when the heart forgets its calm. And yet what defines love is not the absence of conflict, but the willingness to reconcile. And when Hailey looked at him with that quiet grace that only she possesses and asked him to make peace with the person he had butted heads with, he did it because he knew that peace is stronger than pride. And that act became symbolic of everything he has learned in his 31 years on this planet. That humility heals more deeply than victory ever can. And that lesson started to ripple through his music, his family, his friendships, and even his relationship with fame itself. He no longer saw the spotlight as something that owned him, but as something he could use to serve others. And that shift changed everything, because now his concerts feel like conversations, his social media feels like sanctuary, and his life feels like a reflection of purpose rather than performance. And it's that transformation that connects him with so many artists across generations, people who have walked through chaos to find clarity, like Demi Lovato, who turned her struggles into strength and created space for others to heal, or like Miley Cyrus, who keeps showing that reinvention is a form of resilience, or like Shawn Mendes, who openly talks about anxiety and self-discovery, reminding fans that courage sometimes looks like vulnerability. And these interconnected stories create a global chorus of hope, each voice unique, but all singing the same truth: that healing is not linear, but it is possible. And in that light, Justin's evolution becomes not just personal, but universal. A reminder that growth happens in public and in private, in tears and in laughter. And as he continues to make music to share glimpses of his faith and fatherhood, the world sees him less as a headline and more as a human. And that shift matters because it reminds all of us that even those who seem to have everything are still learning to navigate love, forgiveness, and fear, just like we are. And when you see him holding his child, when you see him praying quietly before stepping on stage, you realize that what once looked like fame now looks like gratitude. And that is where true greatness lives, in gratitude, not grandeur. And this spirit of humility ties him to a wider web of creators and dreamers all around the world. People like Emma Watson using her platform for gender equality, or Malala Yousafzai continuing to inspire through education, or artists like Bad Bunny blending activism and art, showing that creativity can be both expressive and empowering. And through it all, Justin remains steady. His legacy now defined not by controversy, but by compassion, by how he treats others, by the hope he gives, by the quiet way he's teaching his fans that real strength is gentle. And that's what keeps his name alive in hearts across the globe, because the world doesn't just remember who sang the loudest, it remembers who loved the most. And as this chapter of his life unfolds, you can sense that he's at peace with the balance between family and fame, between giving and growing, and that his best work might not be a song or an album, but the life He's building one full of faith, laughter, forgiveness, and joy, and that is the most powerful message anyone can give, that happiness is not found in applause, but in alignment, in living a life that feels true and kind and free. And as the documentary closes, you can almost hear his voice soft and steady, speaking to every fan who's ever struggled, reminding them that mistakes don't define you, that healing takes time, that love wins when you let it. And maybe that's the note the world needs to hear right now. Because in the end, Justin's story is our story. A journey of falling, learning, rising and shining again. Proof that grace is real and that even in our messiest moments, beauty can bloom, and that message will keep echoing through his music, his marriage, his family, and his legacy long after the final song fades away. If you love celebrity stories, Hollywood news, inspirational journeys, and behind-the-scenes moments that feel personal, hit like, comment, and subscribe to stay connected with more positive and emotional celebrity documentaries.